Hey everybody, welcome back to Big Apple Hockey, and it's a little bit of an impromptu just playoff discussion because after all, the New York Rangers are going to be facing elimination in a few hours. Will they be facing elimination Monday night as well? That is going to be a great question. And also a quick look around the league and the playoffs. And also here's some of your comments if you come on in. This is very much a spur of the moment thing, so it's not going to be all that long and we're not exactly all that planned out. So we have, I, of course, just to say my name once again, even though it's right there, I still like this one better than the one that they're giving us right there. Mark Williams, and make sure you're always leaving me a like. Oh, wow, that goes right on my face. All right, everybody. It's kind of the moment we were all dreading this week, especially after game 5, because that did not look good in any way. So first things first, let's go into some of the particulars. You could always check out the articles on bigapplehockey.com. We're going to try to get more of those up, more writers to recruit. And I'm always powered by SeatGeek. Use the promo code. Doesn't even matter if you go into a hockey game, but first let's go around the NHL. That the Dallas Stars are moving on. The Boston Bruins and the Colorado Avalanche are going to play Game 7. The Boston game, if you guys haven't seen the Boston game, that was amazing what happened in the Boston game. Like that Boston Florida game is the reason why you watch the NHL in the playoffs, because that was back and forth so much. And I mean, the Panthers just would not die every time the Bruins kept trying to go ahead in the third period. And then of course the Panthers right now, they just put up 6 goals on Linus Ullmark, who had a historic season in the Bruins net and the likely Vezina Trophy winner. They just put 6 on him right before Game 7. Do I fully expect the Bruins to win Game 7? Absolutely. But now even a little bit doubt's creeping into my mind. Colorado, they had to work hard to beat Seattle, and they did. I think it was a 3-1 final. And oh wait, sorry, 4-1, because Lackaday was able to get an empty netter. It was just that series is incredible. It's not even where I thought it was going to be. And you're going to find Seattle asking the same question about the New York Rangers. Should the Rangers win tonight? Can they win a third playoff game in Colorado's building? Just really quick on last night's game. I really thought the Islanders were going to force Game 7. Whether or not they're going to drop Game 7 was a different story. I'll get to your comments a little bit. There's 3 of them right now I could see. And I mean, bad bounce. A bad bounce got the Sebastian Aho goal, and then another bad bounce cost them their season. So their season ends. We will do a full breakdown and forecast for each team. It's regardless of when it's going to happen. Like the full breakdown, first it'll be of the season, and we'll probably wait till we make our postseason adjustments till after we have some time to decompress and think about what we're doing with this. But the Rangers face elimination tonight in Game 6, everybody. This is why most of you are here. And last year, they were 5-1 when they were facing elimination of the playoffs. Tonight, Gerard Gallant mixes up his lines. Vladimir Tarasenko to the first line, Patrick Kane to the second line, Artemi Panarin to the third line. Let's see how long he stays with that, because Gallant's done this before and it's lasted a period, maybe even shifts. So we'll see about that one. Right now, 17 of you are in the chat. Thank you very much for joining. And always remember to leave a like. The line shakeup is one thing, but has he made any corrections to scheme? And this is one of the problems I've been having, me personally, with Gallant, because it's clear that Lindy Ruff made a huge adjustment to this scheme. And I think it was, I forgot what I pointed out. I think it was yesterday I was having a conversation just at the bar that I work at. And it looks like the Devils are employing a 2-1-2. And they're using that to slow down the Rangers. They can't break out of their own zone. They're turning over the puck. They're they're also not really breaking in and getting any chances once they get into the zone. Akira Schmid looks way too comfortable. I think I said on the post-game show the other night, 976 save percentage. That's ridiculous. No goalie in 3 starts should ever have a 976 save percentage unless they're literally a wall. So that's just that. So that's really just all I have to say on my notes for this game, because really we're here to talk about what you think is going to be going on tonight. We're all faced with elimination. David is saying, I have 2 hours left of my work day. You need to go at least that long. I will try to go as long as I can, David. I'll try to go as long. I mean, again, I love it that you guys tune into us at work. Back when Philk and I used to always do 5-hour shows. That was amazing. Those were some days. That would be great if we ever had the budget to do all that. Shannon Mills, what an ending. Yep. Well, what an ending for both the Bruins and unfortunately for your Islanders. Shannon, it's a rough one, but at least there's still hockey down in Florida where you are. Guntote and Granny, that game was a blast to watch. Yes, and unfortunately, sorry about your Wild going home. But it's amazing the gymnastics that Bill Guerin has done with that team, especially with those cap restraints that he's got from Parise and Suter. Like, I can't believe Guerin's done a great job. Seattle is a dark horse, goalkeeper saying, and yeah, I agree with you on that one. And thank you, Mike, recommending more people. Guntote and Granny, the Wild didn't look great the last 3 games. Really missed Joel Harrison Eck and Kirill and Boldy weren't well. Yeah, well, it's hard, especially when it's Kirill, because the weight of the world's on him every single time. Like, you could talk about Connor McDavid all you want, but the most crucial player to their team is Kirill Kaprizov. That is my take on that. And actually, he was my MVP selection this year. And then McDavid had to go and score 900 points. So Shannon's saying, when a team can't capitalize on the power play opportunities, they can't go far in the playoffs. Still love my Islanders, though. Well, you know what? There's a great saying sometimes with family, your family. I am obligated to love you. I am not obligated to like you. David was saying the Islanders learning what the Rangers learned with Hank. You can't win a cup with goaltending alone. No matter how good your goalie is, eventually a softie will go in, and then that's the game, and that's right. Davey's saying this team looks in limbo. I am not thrilled with this Rangers team. I agree with you, and well, we'll see what the shakeup is. See, look, this is where coaching comes into play, because worse coaches have won with less talent. There you go. I have zero hope the Rangers aren't even competing. Well, here's the thing. This game hasn't started yet. Look at it like this. Game 5 last year, the Rangers went down 2-0 in the first period. I think within the first 5 minutes, Jake Gensel scored one of his 9,000 goals he scored against the Rangers last year. I think he had 7. And because he was starting to knock on the door on John Drews. It's just, when it comes to this game tonight, first goal is going to be very important. And even though the first goal hasn't held up in most games of the series, but it's held up in the last 2, and it was the first one that it held up in. But think about last year. Everything kind of hinged on the Trouba hit on Sidney Crosby, and the more I look at that hit, the more I'm thinking it's like he hit the front of his arm that should have bent a little bit more, but and yeah, Trouba did chicken wing a little bit. But look, if the Rangers are going to do this, they're gonna have to earn it. Shesterkin, great against Tampa Bay in elimination last year. He did eventually shut the door against the Penguins even though the Penguins led, as I've said many times, 2-0, 2-0, 3-2 in the third period of Game 7. But it's gonna be a fight. So hopefully the Rangers can force Game 7, have one more New York team in there. And I would love to cross the Carolina Hurricanes arena off my list of stadiums that I have to go to. David is saying, or the goalies of Walrus. Oh yeah, well, walruses are very big. PK Superman predicted the Devils in 6. Wow, what a prediction! I predicted the Rangers in 6, but I didn't predict that they were going to go to Akira Schmid. And then immediately I got scared. Kyle Billings, hey Kyle, how you doing? I'm excited. Let's go Rangers. Let's see what this team is made of. And it's funny that you say that, Kyle, because let me X out of that because I said the same exact thing. All right. Hey Pete, what's up? Good win for your boys last night. We have a coach. Yeah. I'm not streaming on Twitter. What the hell's going on with that? Temporary there's a problem temporarily on that, I guess. I don't know. There's a technical malfunction. As I almost added in an extra syllable to malfunction. Pete, no, this is actually not a Tanner Glass jersey. This is a Big Apple hockey jersey. I only have one of these made so far. I'm trying to look for whenever it comes to any of the merchandise and stuff like that, I'm trying to get actual good stuff before I start trying to hawk anything. Because I don't want somebody to get something and it's like I have a Alexei Lafreniere Fanatics jersey, and as everyone says, the logo is already falling off. Like the hell? So and Chris Vince is saying, is Gallant the right coach for this team? And that's another thing. I go back to this all the time. I like Gerard Gallant. I love the guy, but you see why he wears out his welcome, and very quickly, because if he doesn't, I mean, he's almost like Rex Ryan. I think that's the best comparison. You can love the guy; it's perfectly fine, but I don't think he's long to be a coach on this team in this franchise. He's great to come in, get the team turned around, provide some structure, but he tends to just be hands off on everything. And it's just, he needs to really put his hands on this team. And as Phil said many times, he doesn't like doing it. He absolutely does not like doing it. All right, let's get further. Core Python. If you haven't followed Core on his YouTube channel, make sure you're doing that. Anybody want to buy some tickets to tonight's game? I'm desperate to sell these. No, man, you go and you see whether it's a great comeback or the last moments of the season, you should always go. Yeah, I haven't seen the Walrus commercial on. Oh, wait. Oh, God. Yeah. You know what? Thanks for reminding me, David. I love that commercial. I love that commercial with the walrus. And then, of course, they're doing the chant. Woo, 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 woo. Yeah. The Rangers have a habit of making random goalies look like that. That's just pathetic. Carolina qualified for the second round. We'll save you a spot at the tailgate. Hey, you know what? If there's a spot at the tailgate for me, maybe I think it's Wednesday or Thursday. Maybe I might be able to fly down there. If you're going down there, Pete, let me know. Where is Panarin and Mika? That is what Tom McCabe is saying, and you are right, because they need to show up. Mika Zibanejad shows up tonight, everybody. I actually liked the way Mika Zibanejad looked for the most part in Game 5. Panarin, on the other hand, he had a good first period, I thought, and then the lingering memory we're all going to have of him is the back check on the power play. It was a rough pass. It was very hard to contain. NHL MVPs should be able to contain that pass, but that's a different story. But when you're out on the ice for 90 seconds and you're completely gassed, how are you going to catch up to Dawson Mercer? This is the reason why you don't do that. So, Pete's saying, I'll take a BAH jersey that should have an A that should be off Zibanejad's. Philk is sort of right on this one. It hurts me to say it because I think all these guys are good people, good players, but I don't think they're necessarily good, like just leaders. I don't think they are. I still think Chris Kreider should have been the captain. I don't know. Oh yeah. By the way, try SeatGeek. You can sell tickets on there. I don't think Kreider. I think Kreider should have been captain. I don't think it should have been Trouba, but whatever. We don't control that locker room. They do. Davey's saying if you lose to the Devils, the Rangers will get a new coach. I agree with you on that. It might not happen right away. Because I've been beating this drum for a little bit. The will still want to see what happens with Mike Sullivan. And I know what a lot of people say, well, it would have happened by now. But sometimes it doesn't happen because the GM might want to pick his own coach. And the GM hasn't been hired yet. Kira Schmid, or Schmid, however he wants to pronounce it. Is Schmidt that good or the Rangers that bad? The Rangers have been giving him open looks in front of the net the entire time. I've seen this kid. If you watch the Devils video where I went to Prudential Center, he made probably the save of the year where there was just an open net and he just reached out he dove with his glove in order to stop it. And it's just something. It's it's just that it's disheartening because they're not getting any traffic in front of the net. Chris Kreider has been nothing the last 2 games in front of the net, and he needs to be. All the deflection goals have not been there. All of the there's a lot that there's been a problem. So I'm actually not sure how long I'm going to stay on Core. I think I wanted to only do about 45 minutes to an hour. But look, Panarin, let's say it. You get rid of him now, you have to replace 96 points in the season. And that's one thing. But then again, how's Florida doing minus Justin Huberdeau? I just called him Justin Huberdeau. Jonathan Huberdeau. Jonathan Huberdeau, he was their first ever 100-point scorer in their history, and they replaced him with a guy that's scoring 100 points and scoring in the playoffs now. And he's been unstoppable. Mike is saying, I hope someone gets the message across the Rangers that this is not playoff hockey, not a leisurely evening skate. It's not just Mika Brad Kreider. It's a team-wide failure. Well, Chris Kreider's got 5 goals in the series. I'm not going to exactly condemn him completely just yet, but he's been very much not there right now. Cora, I'm gonna have to actually get your contact information. I think you got it from my Instagram. Make sure you just it's gonna be too hard for me to get you. I'll do it another time with you. Sullivan is going nowhere. Yes, I do understand that. Sullivan is helping with the GM. So, all right, well, there you go. Philk broke that news during the season that the Rangers would really be high on Mike Sullivan. Look, Peter Laviolette would be a good solution. But what is this? Is this team officially done rebuilding in every way and they're going for the Stanley Cup? You still need a guy that's going to play the kids. You still need a guy that's going to help develop Brendan Ottman. You're still going to there's a couple other things. And then, of course, the cap gymnastics that they're going to have to do. And retaining Sullivan will be a prerequisite. Chris, you would know about goaltending, and if there's traffic that's not in front of you, it makes it a lot easier, and then you just hit it with your belly. Rangers are not going to lose again at the Garden. Not happening. Huge game. They definitely will win decisively, and yes, that is coming from an Islanders fan. I have to echo that statement, Shannon, and say You're telling me the Devils are going to win 3 games at the at the Garden? I don't see it. I don't see it. But I wouldn't even be surprised if the Devils score the first goal of the game tonight. But this one is going to be this one better be the best game of the series. You better see everything left out there. No watching Dawson Mercer scoring a 2-on-1 the way Panarin did. Eric Holla has a goal and an assist in game 5. If you're letting Eric Holla wake up, you might as well just pack it in. Romanella saying, I have a very different feeling about tonight, almost like going to a funeral. Yeah, but I think Drury survives. I think Gallant is the one that takes the blame. That's it. It is that simple on that one. The Rangers aren't holding on to possession in the offensive zone. They aren't grinding in the corners. Yes. So what's deflecting Kreider? What deflecting could Kreider do when with such trash play? Yeah. Of the 70 plus games in consecutive seasons, Huberdeau has the largest point decrease ever. And yeah, and that's speaking about a coach. Daryl Sutter might be on the chopping block, even though he's signed an extension too. He's under contract for a while. Talk about the Mike Sullivan situation. By the way, David, thanks for that bit of news because I haven't been following that part of it. Hi, guys. Shannon crushed my heart. Figured we'd win and go to North Carolina. That would have been, I figured Carolina in 7, so I definitely figured that. Yeah, but if Kane, Meek, and Brett are doing nothing, it makes it easier to shut down one guy who is doing well. That is correct, especially a guy that does not play with the puck. They took the foot off the gas in the third. You can't do that versus the Canes, all gas. You can't do that against anybody. Look at what the Islanders and the Canes did last night. The Islanders tried to, I think, protect that lead. They tried to just get through, and the Canes blitzed them in shots. Anytime, look, it's the football expression of prevent defense. It prevents you from winning. Cora saying, I don't know if Laviolette's the answer either. I don't know about that one either. Because, again, I don't know if this is the right team for him. I definitely thought it was the right team for him in 2013, 2014. Well, Pete, hold on. I'll get to that one in a second. Bruce Boudreau, that's another question. But see, the thing about Boudreau, his teams don't have playoff success. They choke very early. I mean, you think about the Montreal Canadiens upsetting the Washington Capitals. The one time he really had good playoff success was with Anaheim in 2015, and he got to Game 7, and then they lost to the Blackhawks, and the Blackhawks went on to win the Stanley Cup. Peter Laviolette, I almost did it again. Laviolette won the Cup with Carolina, but he's been to the Cup finals with Nashville and Philadelphia. The guy knows how to coach. And he took the Islanders to Game 7 of the first round when they couldn't win a playoff series. So that's like the same thing. If the Devils score the first goal tonight, the Rangers won't respond, give up. You know what? I think they're going to have to. Maybe what they did last year. Because, again, keep in mind, Game 5, if you remember, I think they scored 3 goals in the span of 2 minutes. They tied the game, took the lead, and, well, they coughed up the lead immediately right after that. But then Hedl scores. They go into their system, and they win Game 5, go on and play Game 6. So you just got to win every single shift. You got to take it one at a time. And after all, I had a playoff game that was similar to that, except we got crushed instead of actually coming back. We took a 1-0 lead, and then they responded with 6 consecutive goals. That was wonderful. All right, Drury's going nowhere. He gave Gallant a Lambo, and he crashed it. I agree with you on that one. I've said before on the last final buzzer that we did with Philk, this was the most talented Rangers team I've ever seen. And instead, now what? And look, and all credit to the Devils. The Devils are a damn good team. It's just, I mean, you just can't you can't be doing this. And by the way, I did allude to this, and I see a Facebook user without a name, so I'll get to that one in 1 second. Um, they got to protect Igor Shesterkin because right now Shesterkin keeps on attacking players. I actually thought, and I have to make a correction. I thought the other night because Sam and Joe said that Lindgren was serving Shesterkin's penalty. It ended up being Lindgren's own penalty, and it's one of those things that Shesterkin, he's kind of been a little bit more aggressive, and he does need to be because where was the response when Timo Meier fell on his leg? And Timo Meier jumped on his leg. Like if I'm Shesterkin, I'm punching him in the head. And then he gets run into by Nico Hischier. You gotta. I understand. And again, I don't think Nico Hischier meant to run into him, but there was no response. You can't let a goalie just get run. Can't. And doesn't matter if you're going up against Zdeno Chara. If it was me, yeah, I'm gonna have to go up to him. I'm gonna have to get my ass kicked, but I gotta let him know you don't go after my goalie. The jury do everything he could to get the players to help this team to win. What more could he done? It's crazy to blame him. I think Drury did everything. The only thing that he was getting Patrick Kane. Once Patrick Kane forced his way to New York, it was going to be Patrick Kane. They made the decision to go with Tarasenko, and I'm still surprised they really didn't go get Barbashev. But I mean, look, Nico Mikkola, he's been a good addition, but this is now, can they actually win the game 5-on-5 is what the next question is. And I don't know whether or not that's going to be the case. All right. Romanell saying Drury should be safe. He did everything he could that he team could ask for. Kane, Vladdy, etc. I trust him. He knows what it takes. Played on one hell of an Avs team. Well, yeah, Chris Drury, by the way, if you guys all know the story, he's been known as a clutch player going all the way back to Little League. Chris Drury pitched the deciding game to win the Little League World Series for Trumbull, Connecticut. Now, of course, great player with Boston University. Then, of course, great player with the Colorado Avalanche, Calder Trophy winner and Stanley Cup winner. He really didn't do much with the Flames when he was there very briefly. And the Sabres, he led them to their last President's Trophy under Lindy Ruff, I may add. And then, if you remember with the Rangers, there's lots of times he scored the goal that beat the Devils in Game 5 in overtime back in 2008. If you remember the 2010 season, the 2011 season, he was dealing with an injury the entire season, comes back for the last game. The Rangers go down to nothing versus the New Jersey Devils. He's skating on the fourth line, ends up putting the Rangers on the board. And then after that, the Rangers took it to New Jersey to win that game and get in the playoffs. Now, did they do anything when they got in the playoffs? Of course not. They were knocked out in 5 games by the Washington Capitals. But also that could have been something different if they just had a better third period, but they didn't. Because that was the Can You Hear Us game, if you remember correctly. All right, because I agree with what you said. Rangers not testing Schmid. Chesty can't do it alone. Stephen Croft is saying big bounce back tonight. I hope you're right. Well, unfortunately, some of this talk about firing Gallant, it's because of Gallant. And I think it's because then fans start to wonder ahead. I agree with you. Focus on tonight. Whoever the Rangers should hire, we should be calling for. Well, we'll call him for his head in 2 years. This team is cursed. Yeah, I don't think so. I think Chris Knobloch would have been a good choice, is what Davey's saying right here. We'll give Chris Knobloch a chance, but the problem is now they've raised their expectations. They're a team that went to the conference finals last year, and they were on a short list of teams that can win a Stanley Cup. Now, could they still do it? Of course, they could still do it. Win the next 2 games. Maybe you go to Carolina. Maybe you surprise them because they're injury depleted, and the Rangers sort of have had Carolina's number this year. And maybe you can shorten a series there, sort of like what Tampa Bay did last year. They went 7-4 and then 6 versus the Rangers. You know, and it's funny, by the way, and well, Nick, you're right. Drury does want Mike Sullivan. That's what the report was. But again, we don't think it's going to happen. Back to this. Boudreau is the Marty Schottenheimer of coaches. Absolutely perfect. Absolutely perfect, Pete. He is the Marty Schottenheimer of coaches. When we were doing some individual shows sometimes on this channel, I made mine called NHL Snipes, and that was my first thing. It was Bruce Boudreau is the Marty Schottenheimer of coaches. And look, he gets his teams to play, and they're usually good regular season teams. It's just usually they collapse in the postseason. Dolan doesn't want to fire his guys. Sather still has a job. Isaiah Thomas was fired only after a lawsuit. You don't have to win under Dolan. He just has to like you. Unfortunately, that is correct. Key at the top 6 hasn't shown up, but I'm getting tired of defending Loff and Kako. They can score. They cannot score goals. Well, Kako seems to be a little bit snake bit. Again, I think you'd be an idiot to give up on these kids too quickly. David saying how Drury was hired shows you that he isn't getting fired. That is true too. Romanel saying if they're making a coaching change, Trotz would have been my pick, but that's not happening now. Correct, because now he's a GM and the GMs don't get fired as quickly. Steven, very enthusiastic. The series ain't over. That's why they play the games. Rangers can't beat a third string goalie. Well, he's actually their second string because Mackenzie Blackwood has not been playing like a guy that is really their best thing. But again, what they've done is they've actually used their speed and their scheme to neutralize the Rangers' talent. Can they do it right here? I mean, I don't know. Well, here's the thing, Chris, going with this, I don't know. I think there needs to be some sort of response, but it's too late. You can't make a response on this. Because if Meyer, all right, let me just say, go with the butterfly effect, if you will. Meyer falls on Shesterkin. Keandre Miller rips him off of him and beats the snot out of him. Maybe it's a 1-1, because if you ever look at the play, Meyer clearly is trying to take out his knee. It's a dirty play. It's a very dirty play. And then what happens is Shesterkin doesn't take that penalty. Maybe the Rangers don't go on that. The Devils don't go on that power play. Hughes doesn't score. Rangers win 1-0. 3-0 series lead. That's how quickly all this stuff can change. But then again, I just want to remind a lot of Ranger fans tonight. And granted, Marc Messier ain't walking through that door, as Rick Pitino would say. But the Rangers were down 3-2 to the Devils, and they were able to. And they played the worst period and a half of hockey I think I might have ever seen. And they came back to force Game 7. And yes, it was Marc Messier, and we all know about the legend. But just going to remind you, it can happen. And the last time that I was in the situation with facial hair, yeah, it was very rough. And the Rangers won that series. Guys, you got to believe. Let's not talk about the funeral as long as there is still hope. Come on, fans. Wish the win to reality. Manifest it, if you will. You could always say that. Romanel, I gotta tell you, man, I gotta say that there's no need to worry about settling down this team. With the amount of experience that's on that bench, they shouldn't be head cases. And instead, right now they are. So, I mean, you're talking about a guy that's got 3 Stanley Cups that they brought in, and another guy whose best friend won a Stanley Cup. They shouldn't be this mentally weak. And I got to tell you, one of the surprises on this series, I haven't seen much out of Filipino. I saw somebody rate him as a B- on the play, and I'm just thinking, what the hell are you talking about? But I don't know. I haven't seen much out of Filipino the last 3 games. But it's more on Gallant, and this is where you're right. Drury has assembled the talent. He didn't assemble the effort of the heart. That's on Gallant. The coach has to play. They play more north and south and stop being out of position in the offensive zone and giving up breakaways. Mike, yeah, they're doing a lot of east to west, especially in the offensive zone. That's where they're doing a lot of it. Chris Drury, drafted by the Quebec Nordiques. Do you know who the last draft pick of the Quebec Nordiques was to play in the NHL? Throw it down in the comments below. And he was a 50 goal scorer, I believe. If not, he was definitely a 40 goal scorer. He was a hell of a player. Robert saying this is on the players and them. They still only have the faith. They did it twice. Them only still have faith. There we go, because there was no punctuation. Did it twice last year at the Garden. Better be bumping tonight. I was not impressed with the crowd the last 2 home games. Yep. And I do have to say, I think the crowd, the one thing the crowd did masterfully last year for the Rangers was, I think they were up 2-1 over Carolina in game 3. Igor lets in a bad goal. The entire building knows it's a bad goal. And what do the Ranger fans do? They give Igor a standing ovation and start chanting Igor. And immediately, instead of him getting down on himself, he's able to close the door. The Rangers win that game. That's the type of thing the fans need to be tonight. So, Romanel, when you go, make sure you're keeping everybody up. And also, Cora, if you end up going, have a good time. The Rangers should have no issue in winning 2, then beating Carolina. Boston might be finished too. Look, that's the thing. There's a path to the Stanley Cup. There's definitely who's the strong team right now? Who's really the strong team? Edmonton, you can't get a consistent effort out of them. Dallas looks like they might be a pretty solid team to beat. Colorado's going to 7 games against Seattle, and they're inconsistent with their goaltending and such. And then you have and you look at the East and Carolina, that they won it in 6, but really, what great effort was there? And lastly, Tampa Bay, Toronto. Toronto had a chance. There was, oh my goodness, there was a great post yesterday that since 2013, if you bet $100 on every closeout game for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and then you doubled down after you won, you would have won $345,000 by now. I saw that and I started going, that can't be. Well, yeah, it's the power of exponents. So, yeah. Well, here's the only thing: it's a top 5 roster, and yes, you can't lose with this roster. But you know something? It's something that if they do go out, I will kind of go, New Jersey's got a good roster too. But it is a terminable offense, especially when you're up 2 games to none in the series. Steven is saying we were here last year, and you're right about it. Now experience plays heavily into that. They should be firing every shot of this, but you don't want to just fire every shot. As I was kind of pointing out in game 5 when I was talking about this, it looks like they're squeezing their sticks too hard to make good passes. Can't be doing that. You gotta actually just you gotta calm down. Right now, it starts anew. Look, it's something I'm trying to work in my golf game where it's like if I have a bad hole, don't bring it into the next hole, and then you hit a bad tee shot. Oh no, here it comes again. You just got to relax and just take the very next shot. That's all you have to do. Can we talk about Boston, New York, both teams, and Toronto all getting out of the first round? NHL can't be happy with Carolina, Jersey, Florida, Tampa being in the second round. Very unexpected. Well, Tampa's kind of the 800-pound gorilla. I mean, and technically speaking, the Toronto will get a 0 in the ratings. I mean, they'll be huge in Canada because a lot of people hate the Leafs, but then again, you got an American star on the Toronto Maple Leafs, and they've been marketing him a little bit better the last few years. So, yeah, they could be happy, but the NHL is just happy with their niche. They don't care if the Carolina Hurricanes are in the Stanley Cup Finals against the Arizona Coyotes. That's a stretch. I know that, everybody. All right. Yeah, BS penalty there. We were on that. Make sure you're hitting the like for me. That way I don't have to. I try to get on these all the time. Make sure you smash that like. Got 14, 15 of you right now. Thank you very much, everybody. Like I said, this is an impromptu thing. I just kind of figured, well, let's just come up with a game, figure it all out. And if there's a chance, maybe if the Rangers, hopefully the Rangers don't get eliminated. If the Rangers do get eliminated, maybe I'll try to see another city. Maybe finally go see Dallas. Kane going to play with Laffy and Kako again? No, our man, actually right now it's Panarin with Hedl and Kako, which I kind of thought about that for a long time anyway. Well, I mean, Panarin could facilitate them. It's Laffy with Kane and Trocheck. That's what I saw today. All right. I think it's my fault. I had facial hair pre-playoffs. I didn't shave before I started to shave my beard after game 2. I've been manicuring this. I always do. Or manicuring it. Can't manicure your face, idiot. So I kind of always groom my beard because I don't want to look completely. You can see in there how messed up it all gets. I think you should be allowed to groom a playoff beard if it's there. In my case, if they lose tonight, I'm shaving when I get home. Or I might wake up and shave. I don't know. I'll figure that one out. Maybe we end up doing a post-game wrap-up tomorrow. Probably. This is sort of like my tax season. Guntone Granny is asking, how pissed was Igor the other night, and what do you think? You think it'll fire up the Rangers? No. I don't think it'll fire up the Rangers. My goal, he's right here in the chat. My goalie does not yell at us. Only if he has to. And when he does, you know what? I do take notice. But if it happens more than once, then you just turn over and go, this guy's a bitch. So, but no, my goalie does not yell. So I think that's the way that goalies always just got to stay focused. But then again, it helps when your goalie has a demeanor that he doesn't yell a lot, because then you really do notice when he does that. Actually, you know what? Maybe it does fire him up a little bit. If Igor is usually quiet, but I mean, Hank, you could tell with Hank, he'd be like, you got to get that guy, not that guy. He's more like, I think he was more like instructing. That's why I don't yell at about him. But exactly, playoff hockey is insane. Steven is saying, hate to say it, but Trouba needs to take someone out and getting retribution for harassing Shesterkin. Yes. How about this? Maybe somebody, I don't know, harasses Akira Schmid. Get him off his game. No, he's Swiss, but oh, hey, Chris, that's awesome. You going to Dallas? Yeah, maybe I could do something like that. I don't know. Can't wait to see who Drury blasts this year. Johnny, I hope I don't know, because I don't know what free agent moves he can make. I don't even know what trade moves he can make. And by the way, this is one thing, Nick Peary, I gotta agree with you about right here, because you can talk about the new system, and right now Gary Bettman is definitely saying, oh, hey, look at that system and look how good it's doing. Because everybody wants to go back to a different playoff system, or even put in playing games. Shut the fuck up, playing games. It's 16 teams are enough. If you can't make it to 16, get out of the way. Because we do playing games on top of the playing games. Then after that, and then they turn into not only playing games but a best of 7, or whatever stupid thing the NBA has been doing. But when you're in the division against your teams, because the Devils are going nowhere for years, guys. this team is going to be right there. You're going to have to deal with Jack Hughes for years. Robertson was pretty shut down even by a lukewarm Wild team. Yeah, he was, and Rupe Hintz stepped up. Though a friend of mine said when he scores a goal, they should play not the Dallas Stars thing. It should be, hey, Rupe, hang on. Anyway, yeah, it was a bad joke when he told it to me, and I had to tell it to you guys. NYR for Life is saying the Rangers need to drive the front of the net, and New Jersey has done it multiple times. We need to make Schmid uncomfortable. That is correct. Keith Marlowe, the private eye, says last power play it looked like the Devils covered the trigger man and down low. Well, Kane or Fox running the point needs to fire the puck. And look, Fox was brilliant with that in the first 2 games. You got to get the pucks to the nets. All right. Rangers were underdogs going into the series. Can't destroy them in the first 2 games. It's not just Schmid. I can give credit where credit's due. They're playing great and they deserve it. Yeah. But they need 2 guys in front to draw an extra defender. It'll give them more room at the points, create a little bit more space. But this is all stuff that you should be doing in your film sessions. So hold on. I have somebody joining me right now. It is Mr. Anthony LaRocco. Anthony, how are you doing today?
Pain. No, it's all good. Sucks that it ended, but what are you gonna do?
Yeah, well, you know what? First, I think there's less question marks when it comes to you guys as opposed to say the Rangers next year. We're gonna have a full breakdown of their season, what happened, and then also your thoughts about where to go with this afterwards. We'll do that all at a later time. But let me get your thoughts about last night, Anthony.
The first period and second period were awesome. I mean, the Islanders came out and they controlled the play. They outshot the Hurricanes. They outchanced them. They didn't give them a whole lot when they did break down. Ilya Sorokin was there to make the save. They got the first goal, which was really crucial. But then as the game started to go on, I know there are Islander fans that probably felt this way as I did, but because after they scored the first goal, Anderson was like kind of swimming in his crease. They were getting all these chances, and there were so many chances where it was like, oh, that close to going in. And after a while, when it stayed 1-0, you started to think, well, now this is going to bite them in the ass. If they don't get that second goal, Hurricanes get 1 and then it's tied and then, it's up in the air. And that's exactly what happened. As the game went on and they kept just like missing by an inch, or the Hurricanes just kept getting a lucky bounce, I started to feel, all right, well, this has Hurricanes scoring a goal to tie in the third written all over it, and then, go to overtime. So, first 2 periods were great. I don't know what happened in the third period, and I don't think it was a conscious decision by the coaching staff or any of the Islander players to kind of sit back. But that's what they did in the third period. They totally got away from the game that they played in the first and second. And when you sit back and essentially play not to lose, you ultimately end up losing. And the Hurricanes outshot them something like 20-5 in the third period. They caved them in. So I don't think the Islanders changed their game plan. I just think, maybe they got a little tense in that situation with how hard the Hurricanes were coming, and they couldn't get back to their game. But yeah, the third period, it wasn't the same team or even close to the same team, and unfortunately, that did them in.
It was amazing because I was watching that game and I was just thinking nothing's going to get by Sorokin. And then it just a bad bounce lands in front of the crease. Aho puts it in 1-1. And then by that time, you're putting so much effort in, and they were coming the entire time, forcing the play. And then it was just that's a rough thing. And I remember watching that replay and just going,
I got to give Aho credit. It's not like the puck just even landed at his feet. He actually gloved it, put it down, and then put it in the net. So good play on him to do all that. But unfortunately for the Isles, they didn't body him off, or not. They shouldn't even gave him the opportunity to do that. But it is what it is. And then listen, the game winning goal. I know there are Islander fans that will say Sorokin let in a bad goal, which there's no debate. It was. But there's two things with that. One, without Ilya Sorokin, we're a lottery team. He was easily the team's MVP. So I'm not going to get on him much. And then two, and most importantly, that goal is more on Adam Pelech than Ilya Sorokin. Adam Pelech had the puck in his zone. He was unpressured, and he went to go clear it, and he just fanned on it and didn't get as much as he wanted to on it, or who knows, maybe the puck bounced on him when he went to clear it. But regardless, Adam Pelech botched that play. If he clears that, it gets that out, that doesn't even happen. But unfortunately, this is the game of hockey. Stuff like this happens. He didn't get the puck out, and that was it.
Now, this is what Steven said for this. The Islanders made it a series. They did really well getting into overtime to lose on a fluke goal shot. Kudos to the Islanders for taking it that far. You can argue with this one, Anthony. Game 2, probably that was another one that got away from the Islanders. And it's funny. Look, first things first, Ilya Sorokin played fantastic. And let me get to the losing play before I bring up the one. We never talked about it in Game 2, which is last night first off, Pelech didn't get much of it, but it took a great effort by Derek Stepan to hold it in the zone. And then that they didn't even think about going to review on that, which I found that mildly funny. But I guess because they saw that it didn't cross the line, maybe that's it. And so they didn't have to. Anyway, he gets it down low, and then you have Stastny looking to make a play. I just think it's sort of like, in a way, like the Sidney Crosby goal in Vancouver on 2010 and on Ryan Miller. I think they just didn't think he was going to shoot it there. And because Sorokin's not hugging the post, it didn't look like he was in a posture that looked like he was taking that threat too seriously. I think he was waiting for Stastny to set something up. Stastny throws it at the net, it goes in. Sometimes as a shooter, that's all you have to do. You've scored goals before. I mean, I remember when I used to score goals. I've been scoring shit lately. So it's just I think there's the look, could Sorokin have been better in the series? Yeah. But in the games they won, it was incredible. It was absolutely incredible. He was great in game 1, good in good and not great in game 2, great in game 3. The chances in game 4, he had no chance.
Yeah, no, he had,
yeah. Game 5, great. And then game 6, it looked like he was impenetrable. And then they got 2 that squeaked right by him. The one in game 6 I wanted to ask you about, the game 2, I mean, Anthony. Sorokin was covering down low, and Slavin, a left-handed shot, banked it off the back of his head because he went down. And he went kind of, I can't exactly illustrate it for you, but he moved forward and he kind of exposed the head right there. Is that when you kind of fault him on, or you just kind of say, there's no way a right-handed shot sneaks. Oh, maybe a right-handed shot can sneak that in. A left-handed shot, there's no chance that guy can get it in there, right?
Yeah, you know what? I think, again, I think he was probably more so expecting a more higher percentage play. I think, maybe he didn't really expect Slavin to shoot from the corner there. But yeah, I mean, he went down a tad early, but you got to give Slavin credit for that though, because Slavin, picked the spot. He banked it off his helmet, and it was a good shot. But yeah, it's just unfortunately, at the end of the day, the Islanders' offense just didn't put in enough goals to make some of these things not even a story. Like, especially the one last night. If the Islanders would have scored a second goal, that goal wouldn't have happened, and the game would have been totally different. So,
And there were
Unfortunately,
several times where they were knocking on that door in the second period.
yeah, there's so many chances, so many instances where it was like, oh, so close. Parise hit the crossbar. Honestly, almost like a similar, kind of like a similar goal that Slavin scored against Sorokin. It was from a wide angle. Freddie Anderson went down, and Parise, picked the corner over him over his shoulder, and it hit the crossbar, and it didn't go in. But so there were many instances like that last night where they just couldn't get the puck to go, and if they would have, it would have been a game 7, and unfortunately it's not. And the other one too in the first period, which bothers me, is that Barzal, if he did like a flyby, and he got stopped. If he would have, Butch Goring was saying on the telecast, if he would have stopped in front of the net, he probably would have had a better chance of putting the puck in. I don't know if you know what play I'm talking about or if you saw it, but someone brought the puck to the net. The rebound popped out. Barzal skated hard to the net, and he got a shot off, but not all of it. And Gostisbehere was was on his knees in the crease, and he helped it to not go in.
Yeah,
but
actually, I do know that. Yes.
Yeah, Butch Goring was saying if he went to the net and just would have stopped, it would have been a different story. But he did like a flyby, and unfortunately, the puck didn't go in the net. But this is what I'm talking about. They had so many instances where they were really close to getting that second goal, and they just couldn't do it. So, but it's ironic though, because it goes back to kind of the story of their season. They needed more scoring, and there were times where they weren't able to score enough goals, and that's what happened to them last night.
And it's funny because I threw up on our Instagram page the Igor Shesterkin saying, "I wish the guys could just get one more goal from me," and Henrik Lundqvist saying, "Tell me about it, kid." But
this is another good point. If special teams are really important in the playoffs, and aside from Kyle Palmieri's goal in Game 3 that won them the game, I think that was the only power play goal the Islanders scored in the series. I think so.
Ouch!
You can't do that right now. You need to score on the power play, and scoring one goal. I don't have to look at the final stats. I don't know how many chances they had over the 6 games, but 1 out of whatever, not good enough, especially when the Hurricanes got a bunch. So special teams are big, and special teams let the Islanders down in the playoffs for sure.
I'm going to ask this question, obviously, on our Wednesday show when all 3 of us are going to be together. But I'm going to ask this again to you. Is Lane Lambert the biggest question mark going into the offseason for the New York Islanders?
I don't think so. I'm not his biggest fan. I certainly wouldn't sleep or cry if Lou made another coaching change. However, I'd be really surprised if he got ousted. For a lot of reasons, but one, they didn't make the playoffs last year, and this year he got them back in. So I don't see Lou making that move. Unless maybe he was, he happens to be, just by example, he's really enamored by Laviolette now that he's available, but I don't think he's going to make that move. I really don't.
All right, because the only reason why I have to ask this question is because starting next season, you got a $9 million, I think it's a $9.15 million deal going in for Matt Barzal.
Yeah.
That's kicking in. You got the $8 million extension kicking in for Bo Horvat.
8.5.
8.5. So it's even more.
Yeah.
You got to get more out of those players. You got to get more out of them.
I'll start with Barzal. When he got in the beginning of the year, he was at over a point per game.
Even without scoring a goal.
I remember us talking about it, in the beginning of the season. He was at more than a point per game. And then he tailed off a little bit, picked it back up a little again. And then when he got hurt, he had 51 points in 58 games. So, obviously that's not bad. But for someone like him that's getting as much money as him, you want him to produce more. But then you also look at the system too. So when you judge Barzal, it's hard to look at his points and make a critique on him. Mm-hmm. But I will say, he does need to, I would say, at least be a 75 to 80 point player next year, in which if he never got hurt this year, 51 and 58, he was probably on the
Gonna
track.
be up there, yeah.
He's probably on the track to do that. As far as Bo Horvat goes, again, I think everyone with a brain knew that Horvat wasn't going to put up the numbers that he did in Vancouver. Just not. Because
That's not who he is.
Well, no, it's not just that. It's because of the system. The first thing is the system. Obviously, the Islanders play one of the more tighter systems in the league. They don't give their players much offensive reign. And in Vancouver, Horvat was able to do whatever he wanted. And then obviously there's no, Elias Pettersson in New York where he had in Vancouver. But, Horvat, yeah, he did not, after Barzal went down, because if you remember, before Barzal got hurt, Horvat was putting up points. They developed chemistry and he was producing. And then when Barzal went down, it all kind of went dry. And then the rest of the way, he didn't do much. And he knows he needs to be better. And I'm hoping that, next year with a full training camp with the Islanders next to Barzal, they'll be able to kind of re-get their chemistry back. Because when Barzal came back to the lineup, it wasn't close to the same. That same chemistry was not there. Part of that was, I'm sure Barzal's not 100%. And maybe in the exit interviews in 2 days from now, maybe, he'll divulge that and say, he's still not where he needs to be or whatnot. But regardless, I don't think Barzal was at 100%. That probably went into them not clicking again right off the bat. So you're right. They absolutely do need to be better. I'm not that concerned about it because they are both super talented players. I think they'll be okay. But in this instance, they did not give enough during this playoff run. That's for sure.
Now, because the other point that I'd make, and again, I was hoping we would do a full season wrap-up show to talk about this, but just to throw this out there again, if it's not the scheme, I think the other thing I look at with the Islanders is they need more explosiveness from the wings. Now, I think you don't touch the Palmieri. Well, you can't touch Palmieri anyway because he's got a no move clause in a contract that I think he's got 2 more years on it.
2 years at $5 million, but it's not a no movement clause. He's got I think he's got a no trade clause modified.
A healthy Kyle Palmieri is good for the New York Islanders.
Oh yeah,
that's the thing.
He was, yeah.
So let me get that out there. I'm not trying to condemn that, but that Nelson, Palmieri, Engvall line, we could call it the pen line, or I forgot what I tried calling it at one point. But that line actually was the best one in the series, and you already got a 70-point season out of Brock Nelson.
75.
So here you go. You got Drizly, who's right now just an albatross, even though he's still a really good net front player. But you got to hope you're going to get something out of Oliver Wahlstrom, whatever's left that's there. And maybe they can try to take a stab. I think actually this might be the year you look at the fourth line and wonder, should they finally break them up?
Yeah.
And part ways with some guys. And as cruel as it is, I think Hudson Fasching fits in well with this team.
He does.
So there's another guy. If the Islanders can go out and get it doesn't. I'm using this for a player for example. I'm not saying go get him, but if they end up getting like a Victor Arvidsson or something like that, somebody with speed, backs the defense up, besides Matt Barzal because he's the fastest guy on the team. I think the Islanders they have pieces in place to move things around, and I'm trying to figure out what they would need on defense because I like their guys. I like the guys I got.
Yeah. Brought up a couple of good points about, their talent on the wings. You mentioned Lee. Lee had 28 goals, nothing to sneeze at, but I get what you're saying. He's obviously not the fastest player, and, he's pretty one-dimensional in the sense of he gets a lot of his goals from, standing in front and putting home rebounds. So you still need a little more from him, but the thing is, he's got 3 years left on his contract at $7 million, and he's the captain on top of that, so he's not going anywhere. Unfortunately, there's nothing I can do about that. You mentioned Palmieri. Palmieri had 16 goals in only 55 games, and he was their best player in the playoffs. So he's not going
clearly.
Anywhere. Yeah, he's staying. So yeah, they don't have many options to upgrade on the wing. I mean, Zach Parise, who by the way I love, 21 goals, 38 years old. He's hardest worker on the team. He's going to be 39 in July. I'm starting to wonder if they want to try to get a little more talent on the wings, especially someone who's younger and obviously a higher ceiling. You wonder if Parise doesn't get brought back, because at some point, if you do want to make almost like a retool or change the makeup of the top nine, you're going to have to let someone go to do that. So if they don't re-sign Parise, they can, move someone like Palmieri down to the third line and acquire another, top six winger, someone that, fits the description of what you're saying, someone who's with speed and a little more of a scoring threat. So that's something that's definitely up in the air. I mean, I would love to see Parise back again because I love the guy, but
And a great value on that contract.
oh, forget. I mean, yeah, 21 goals at league minimum, and everything he gives you in every area of the ice. So who knows? We'll see what happens with him. You mentioned Hudson Fashing. He's great on the third line with Pajot. He's a big body. He works hard. I expect him to be back. But yeah, you know what? There are questions to be answered. I got to imagine that Lou's going to try to, do something to give them more cap space to make a move. I would say Josh Bailey is 100% gone, whether it be through trade or buy out the final year of his contract. That will give them a little more cap space to work with, but he's certainly gone for sure.
Paging Doug Armstrong. You have to get another draft pick out of the New York Islanders to get rid of an expensive contract.
Yeah, I mean, trading him would be more preferable because you get rid of the whole $5 million. But even if they can't, they're going to buy him out, and I think that saves them about. I forget last time I did it on Cap Friendly. I think it's like the $3 million or so they save with the buyout of Bailey, which is obviously better than having him on the roster. So, yeah, but the writing was on the wall for him with how they used him down the stretch. He's done.
Right now in our poll, we have 43% of the people are saying Rangers in 7. There are a lot of believers in here. 54% are saying Devils in 6. Only 3% people are saying if the Rangers win tonight, they're thinking they're going to win game 7. So I'm a little bit amazed about that so far. But you still got to look at this.
Andrew
And
suggests, Tyler Bertuzzi is a UFA, so yeah, sure, that's possible. DeBrincat is an RFA, which
and he's going to get a massive contract.
Yeah, I hear he may not want to stay in Ottawa, so they may have to move him. Which, I mean, he would be. I wanted him last year. I was beating that drum. So if he was available, sure, definitely look into it. And then Nikolai Euler is another guy. He had a rough year in terms of his health, but
he's had a rough couple years in terms of
Mark, you want to talk about speed. He's really fast. He's shifty, and he could score. So yeah, I mean, all three of those would be good options, but more specifically, DeBrincat and Ehlers.
And Andrew, by the way, keep the faith in the Mets as well. But I look at those three names and I'd rate them 1 DeBrincat. Go if you can get him, go get him. 2 Bertuzzi and 3 Ehlers. I've had Ehlers in fantasy hockey the last few years. He has been very frustrating. Very frustrating. Like he'll appear and disappear off your roster all the time. And I like Nikolai Ehlers. If this is a video game, I put him in right now. But this is real life. He's got to play those games. Yeah. And he's one of those guys you can't help but ask the question, are you injured or are you hurt? Like, we're going to be asking some pretty good free agent questions, like Mark Scheifele. There's another one. Although, does he have another year? Thought he's a free agent.
He's not a free agent. He's got another.
He's not a free agent. He's got one more year on his deal. But still, Mark Scheifele at $5.5 million. Yeah.
Yeah.
Core, I'm with you on that one. Tyler Mott would be a good Islander, but I think
Tyler Mott is not what they need. I feel like he's more of the same of what they, they don't need another bottom 6 energy type player. They have enough of those. So, I don't think you have to worry about that. I don't think Mott is on the Islanders' radar.
No, and I don't think he's going to be a Devil either. I think if he ends up going anywhere, I want to say Ottawa, but I don't think that's going to be the case either.
Yeah.
Actually, Mott could be an interesting case as you end up going out west.
Speaking of Winnipeg, you mentioned Blake Wheeler, but Blake Wheeler is, I mean, I think he's just as old as Parise. I think he's 39 or so.
He's very much up there.
Yeah. So I don't, yeah.
It's sort of like Anthony. Look at it like this: tell me your age without telling me how old you are.
And yeah.
And in Blake Wheeler's case, he played for the Atlanta Thrashers.
And as far as what he his production now for what he was making, Blake Wheeler's not worth it. I'm just checking if Wheeler's a free agent. I don't know if he's the same as
No, I
Scheifele.
think he's got a long deal. I think he's getting paid $8 million.
Yeah, he is, but oh yeah, he's got 1 year. He's got 1 year left at 8.2. No, thank you. Nope, not a shot.
Anthony,
5 years ago. 5 years ago, sure, but not now.
All right, now that we got you, let me. Well, first off, Cora's asking this. Let me get this. Biggest UFA out there is Lou. Why don't I give him a call? Oh no, Anthony. But Mikey D is asking, where does Oliver Wahlstrom fit on this team next year?
So yeah, that's a good question. He's kind of almost forgotten about because of his injury. The belief was he tore his ACL. He before he got hurt, he was kind of just, meh along. There were nights where he looked really good. There were nights where he was invisible. There were nights where he would use his incredible shot and you'd get excited about him, and then he'd disappear for 5 games. But I think because he hasn't really broken out yet, and that he's coming off a major injury, he's an RFA. I think for that reason, he's only going to get maybe $1 million or $2 million on a 1 or 2 year deal, kind of to bet on himself. So because you're talking that small of a contract, they're definitely going to bring him back. Because why not? Because maybe it's the year he finally puts it together. But so I think they'll give him. I think they'll give him a shot for sure. They're going to re-sign him, retain his rights. Although I also probably a smaller chance, but I also wouldn't rule out the possibility of Wahlstrom being a guy that would be used in a trade for a more established player if there was someone out there that Lou wanted. That's also a possibility. But my gut says he'll more than likely actually play on the roster, but just keep that in mind. I wouldn't rule that part out, though.
Wahlstrom, RFA without the hammer, which is
Yeah.
obvious because, Kendra Miller doesn't have it. They were drafted in the same draft. That's a good ship, either for the Islanders to keep him or for them to move him on. I have to put that one up. I'm not calling him.
I'll destroy Marc right now about that. So I wouldn't.
Andrew is asking, re-sign Engvall and Fashing. I think that's a no-brainer. You have to re-sign both those guys.
Fashing's going to be re-signed because, he's going to. It'll probably cost like $900K to $1 million to re-sign him on a one-way deal. This is a guy that's been toiling in the minors for a while on 2-way deals, probably making God knows like $80,000 while he's in the minors. So for him, a one-way deal, is good because it guarantees him, NHL money, even if he did get sent down. So I think he'll be brought back. Engvall, though, I'm not sure, though. I would love to have Engvall back, but, he had a career year, 17 goals. He's coming off making $2.25 million. So, for 17 goals, his production, he might get $3.5 million from a team. And, when you look at the Islanders cap situation right now, with also Mayfield being up in the air and, needing a backup goalie, whether it's not, whether that means re-signing Varlamov to just a cheaper deal. There are a lot of other things right now. So I don't know if they could fit Engvall. We'll have to see, but I would like him back. I just don't know if it's feasible.
If I'm the Islanders, I think I would take Engvall. He plays both wing positions, and 26 years old. This is the thing. He's 26 years old, and $2.25 million that he made last year. I think you could get him just a little bit over that, maybe $3 million at the most. One guy that's kind of making me kind of wonder, Anthony, is Scott Mayfield. No chance of him coming back, right?
Lee can go wander in the way. This makes me laugh. I like Lee. Like I said, 28 goals.
It's
But
hard not to like Anders
yeah,
Lee.
I can understand why fans would be upset with him because, like I said, he's kind of slow and he's one dimensional. But unfortunately, he's not going anywhere. Appreciate that, Wicked, as always. What did you? Sorry, Mark. You asked about Mayfield. Is that what the question
Mayfield.
was?
We've talked about this before. I think Mayfield somehow gets somebody to get the $4 million.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is a guy that for the last 5 years he was playing on a contract that made, 1.45 million for I would say legitimate number 4D. That's unheard of, really crazy value. And he's a little not that he's old, but I think he's 29 or about to turn 30. So this is going to be his only chance to to earn a bigger contract for himself. So he already, kind of took one for the team with only being severely underpaid. So yeah, Mark, I think there's going to be a team that will give Mayfield upwards of 4 million if he hits the open market. Um, without looking at the class of free agent right shot defenseman off the top of my head, I would say Mayfield's in the top 3 of best available D right now. Especially the big crease clearing defensive ones. So he's going to cash in, and I just don't know if the Islanders can bring him back unless he gives them a discount. I don't know. I go back and forth on whether or not we can keep him.
That's going to be a real good question. Ooh, man, that was a hell of a burp that came out of nowhere.
I think there's zero chance that Lou doesn't get brought back. I mentioned this on our show actually a couple of weeks ago, and more than a couple of weeks ago now, probably when it happened. But I think from the post, Ethan Sears asked Lou a question about his status and how there was the speculation that his contract expired, and he basically just tore the guy a new one for even asking that question, and basically said he didn't know what he was talking about. So while that was all true, it seems like maybe to the people in the inner circle of the Islanders know differently. So I think maybe Lou does have a contract, and we just all thought he didn't. But either way, though, because of who he is, Wicked, the Islanders owners aren't firing him, or the only way he leaves if he chooses he doesn't want to do it anymore. So,
or he wants to take a role as an advisor,
or if he just wants to kind of take a step back and only be the VP and hire a GM. Maybe that can happen, but I would be actually shocked if he was like legitimately let go. I just don't see that happening at all.
and I got to say, I think the other thing, as far as Ledecky's point of view on this, is Ledecky would probably think, well, this guy turned around this organization, and there's no way you can't say it, because this organization was sort of just all over the place with Garth Snow running it. And Ledecky comes in, stabilizes the ownership. It brings in Lou Lamoriello, who stabilizes everything else. Gets Barry Trotz. That can you get more stable than Lou Lamoriello, Barry Trotz right there? And Ledecky just saying, "Go ahead, go do what you have to do." Now, by the way, to answer your question on that, Anthony, here's what you do have. This is the free agent right defenseman, right-handed defensemen that play right defense. Wow, that was redundant. John Klingberg, then Eric Johnson, who's going to be 35, and actually, I think he might be 36 by the time that starts. I would say he either goes back to Colorado or nothing at all. Matt Dumba, who's been rumored to be leaving Minnesota for his entire career. Damon Severson, Kevin Shattenkirk, Travis Hamonic, Radko Gudas, Ethan Bear, Jake Livingston, Justin Hall, because remember, it's all based off of salary on this. And then Scott Mayfield, and then Troy Stetcher. This is Scott Mayfield's poised to be one of the best in that, because
absolutely
he'll jump Shattenkirk, he'll jump Severson. It's probably down to him, Klingberg, and Dumba to see who's going to get the most money, because it's going to be over Radko Gudas too. So
Core makes a good point here. Branson made 4 last time. You think Mayfield's better than him, so that's a good point.
Yeah.
And this is exactly why I don't know. I don't know if the Islanders can retain him.
And Mayfield is 30, Dumba's 28. That might be a factor. So
Yeah.
is Severson. And the rest of the guys you're looking at, I mean, Justin Hall is in there too. Like, I mean, and Mayfield taking a team friendly deal for so long. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I don't think he's more inclined to do that now. But this right here though, I get the premise of it, but the Islanders were never trading Mayfield when they're in a playoff hunt. Maybe you could have said you could have done it last year when they weren't going to make the playoffs, but this year it was just never going to happen.
Agreed. You're in the playoff hunt. If unless you were able to get back something equal to that with control, you know, that would be something that would interest them. Not to give up a guy like Scott Mayfield, who's been a member of this team
Right.
for 8 years, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. But we don't understand what you're saying right here. The Empire. Let's go with Empire. I think that sounds cooler. Mayfield is overrated, turns the puck over a lot, thinks he could shoot, but he can't at 52. I can still shoot better than him. Good riddance. Right, but you know what? That's where it's but that's where I understand what you're saying. Go get assets for him, but they were trying to win. So, and
Yeah.
this team, a lot of people picked them to beat Carolina. The guy in the left side over there, he picked it's the left side for me. It's the right side for everybody else.
I appreciate
Sorry
that.
about that. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe you will be. Hopefully, for your own sake, it's not, but certainly, definitely a possibility. Marc?
I hesitate before doing that. I think part of the problem with Keandre Miller is he's still learning the position, and also let's be honest, Jacob Trouba isn't the best defenseman with him. So
Yeah.
I out of all the lineup changes I would have made, I would have put Schneider. I would have moved Schneider up and Mikula over. I think it was, or either one of them. I would have broke up Trouba and Miller. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah.
It hasn't been working for a while.
Wicked saying the direction of the team. No prospects, no picks. So, I mean, yes, it obviously is true that he's traded his first a bunch of years in a row. Traded first for Pajot, traded first for Palmieri, traded a first for Romanov, and now traded a first for Horvat. And then prospects, obviously in the Horvat trade was, Ratu. But the thing is about this Islander team is they have a group of veterans who are maybe a little older, like Brock Nelson's going to be 31. Drizly is a younger, older vet, if that makes sense. So they got older, like Polak, and Polak's, I would put him in that category of like a youngish, older veteran. He's not old, but he's not young anymore. So they have a bunch of those guys, but at the same time, they also still fit in that group with the younger guys like Barzell, Sorokin, Dobson, Wallstrom. So the Islanders are a team that have a faction of the roster that are still pretty young, and they have a faction of the roster that that are a little older. And about the prospects, they don't have many high-end prospects that they like first-round picks they previously drafted, but they do have a couple of later round picks that are possibly going to be, steals. Like Dufour finished off his junior career in fabulous fashion. His first year in Bridgeport last year, this year I should say, was really good. So the expectation for him is high going forward. Matthew Maggio, who they just signed from the OHL, I believe he was first or second in the league in scoring. He joined Bridgeport on an ATO, so he's going to be in Bridgeport next year and going forward in the organization. Bolduc showed strides, even though he wasn't ready for prime time in the playoffs, but he's got upside. So they got prospects. They're just not high-end prospects that were drafted in the first round pick and had really, really high expectations, but they all could still be good hockey players. So I'm not in that group of Islander fans that look at things black and white and say, oh, wow, we've traded our firsts and we don't have any, multiple guys we selected, 5th overall or 10th overall, and think to ourselves, oh, we're screwed now. We still got a lot of good young players on the roster, and we still have some prospects coming up that could project to still be pretty good. So I think, as far as, so long story short, direction of the team, I still think they're in good shape. They just need to trim more of the fat, which they started to do. They got rid of an underachieving Beauvillier. Now they need to dump Josh Bailey, create some more cap space, and keep bringing better players. So, I think this team, as far as, if you want me to say, like a window, depending on what they do in the offseason, they could still compete with this most of this roster intact for the next couple of years, in my opinion.
I think it's an interesting case because they do have a lot of guys that are long in the tooth. They don't exactly have the guys that can supplant them, just in case. Who knows? Maybe DeFore takes a jump in the preseason and forces his way on the team. Maybe that's actually the player that you're thinking of. Amaggio, I heard about, and I was waiting to see more about him because I usually don't follow many prospects until they get to the at least to the preseason.
Yeah.
Because I want to actually watch the guys. I don't want to, like, the only reason why I'm high on Brennan Ottman for the New York Rangers is because I saw him in the preseason and I went, this kid can play. Now, and using, again, a different metaphor for a different player. I remember when Derek Stepan made his debut and he sniped one almost from inside the blue line over the former Columbus goalie, the French goalie that they ended up playing in Ottawa. Anyway, I saw that. I went, this kid's going to be a very good center. Not exactly a great center. I actually thought he was going to be great. I thought he was going to end up being a 30-goal scorer, hat trick in his first game, in his first official game. You're like, whoa. But that's the thing. I don't want to get too high on guys until I actually get to see them. I think I was a little bit on Ratty when he first came out, or Ratu, as the way the pronunciation is. I still don't know how he pronounces his name because it's spelled Ratty. And then you had Sam Rosen calling him Ratty, and Steven's telling me it's Ratu because he met him. And then it's like they changed around the pronunciation for the hockey announcers. You're like, wait a minute, just somebody tell me how it is.
Yeah, it's
please.
Ratu.
It's Ratu. Yeah. Anyway, but still. But where I'm getting at with this is, I think I think they still need to find out what's going on with Oliver Wahlstrom. Is there something there, or do they need to move on from him? It's sort of the same question, obviously, that the Rangers had with Vitaly Kravtsov for a while. It's the question everybody's posing for Lafreniere and Kakko. And those are the two I'm going, guys, wait a minute.
Yeah, you know what?
And those are two guys. And those, by the way, Anthony, those are two guys I can't help but say that's one reason why there might be a coaching change. Because if you're looking at those two guys who just were about to break 40 points, I know what everybody's saying with that. 40 points is nothing. Yeah, but 40 points as a third liner, not getting much power play time. That was pretty good.
Arthur Staple had a piece in The Athletic after the Rangers lost game 5 the other night, and kind of just said, like, almost like a what if the Rangers happen to lose the series, talking about where do they go from here. And he mentioned, based on, their cap structure and who they got coming up, he said that they would have to make a decision on Lafreniere. Is he a guy that you move to kind of upgrade your top 9? So it's certainly possible, if the Rangers were to lose tonight, let's say, and they go out, I'm not so sure it's a lock that Alexis Lafreniere will be a Ranger next year. Which is my opinion. I don't think it's a lock.
I think they're higher on. Wow, that's a great question. Are they higher on him than they are on Kakko? That's a good question. And supposedly word is, yeah, they're higher on Lafreniere than Kakko. I still say that speed develops a little bit quicker than size. Size takes more time. But Lafreniere throws the body a lot more than Kakko. So I also think that their contracts are going to make them affordable for another. For like Lafreniere is going to have to sign a bridge deal. Kako's got another year at 2.25, I think it is, and that can give them more time to buy time. It's just the guy that's on the clock, and I know that a lot of the guys were saying in the comments. I haven't been back to the comments in a while, so sorry about that, guys. Is it's Gallant, because if they're not if they go out like this after being up 2-0, his head's on the chopping block,
Quite
and
possibly.
yeah, so I don't know. It's
I
it's
was
that's going to be interesting to get.
after they lost game 5, I was listening to The Point on Sirius XM, and this guy was said, I forget who the host of The Point is. I forget his name right now, but he was saying how
I should know it too.
he thinks that he blames Chris Drury, actually, that Chris Drury should be on the hook for this if if the Rangers go out, based on everything that went down. And I got what he was saying, though, because for me, and I kind of was a big proponent of this, I didn't think they needed Patrick Kane. I really didn't. And then you jumped through the hoops to make it happen with all the salary and the waiting to do it and all this.
Mhm.
But when I watched the Rangers play, why wouldn't they have just, okay, you got Tarasenko. Why wouldn't they have just tried to get another forward other than Patrick Kane, someone who is more like a more two-way game, or like a gritty guy who could also chip in, like Barbashev, like a guy like
Mhm.
Barbashev, or Ryan O'Reilly. I think those are the two type of players that the Rangers could have infused in their lineup, because they have the skills, the Benajad, Kreider, Panarin, Hedel. They have like the finesse and skill already there. I mean, when you add a guy like Ryan O'Reilly and Barbashev to that mix, guys who could score but also bring sandpaper, a little bit of toughness, I think that would have, gone a little, a little further in the playoffs. Because let's face it, guys like Tarasenko and Kane, they're not, they're I mean, they're not as soft as Panarin, but let's face it, they're offensive, skilled players who don't really like to get involved too much. And in my opinion, they have too much of that right now. You have too many guys who like to play that skill finesse game, that when you hit them, they go away because they don't like that style of hockey. And when you have too many of your players like that, it doesn't usually add up into long-term success. Like look at the Lightning. I mean, yeah, they've won a bunch of cups recently. Obviously, you have your Stamkos, you have your Point, you have your Kucherov, you have your skilled players. But then you also had guys like Palat, who could score and also do everything else in every area of the ice. Then you had Coleman, another guy, fast guy, could score, but was also useful in other areas of the ice. Then they kind of shifted, lost those guys. They got Nick Paul. Nick Paul, again, a guy that was able to chip in offensively, but played hard into a style of hockey. Where is that for the Rangers? You're not getting it from
That's why I
Zibanejad.
worried about the Filipino signing.
You're not.
And it's supposed to. I think I could answer one of those guys. It's supposed to be Vinny Trocheck, and Vinny Trocheck has turned in a very bad series.
Yeah. So too many of their guys aren't going to give you that style of hockey. You're not getting it from Zibanejad. You're not getting it from Panarin. You're not getting it from Tarasenko. You're not getting it from Kane. You're not getting it from Hedel.
Tarasenko, by the way, he actually leads the league in like reverse hits or something like that, where guys go to hit him and he just levels them off.
Yeah.
It's what you have to say is, if you add too much skill, if you add skill, do you add too much skill? And if you add grit, do you add too much grit? I actually thought Tyler Bertuzzi was going to be a better option. Look, this isn't over yet. But we are preparing for it's the line from the movie Prisoners, I think it was. Prepare for the worst, hope for the best.
Yeah.
And you can't help but do with that. And I think Tarasenko was good enough. Bertuzzi would have been better than Kane. and Bertuzzi would have been Chris Kreider insurance. You're not worried about another mouth to feed on the power play, which, by the way, power play 1 after game 1 has been atrocious. And again, this is a game that Chris Kreider needs to impose his will. Mika Zibanejad needs to impose his will and not get called for a bullshit goalie interference call that happened. And I still can't believe that they called that. He was literally shoved into the net. You don't call the Timo Meyer one, but you call this one. And yes, as he's falling, he does make contact with Schmid. I get that. But also he's falling. And so I don't get it with that. Anthony, this is an interesting case. And I'm gonna go out on a limb and I'm gonna say they force game 7. I can't think that they're gonna lose all 3 games. However, do they win game 7? That's another story. You don't know. And the reason why a lot of Ranger fans are kind of acting like it's a funeral right now is because the way game 5 ended. They quit in game 5. Yeah. They absolutely quit in game 5. So let's see what that is. Just to get your reaction real quick, because it's 3:52. Let's go for another 8 more minutes. And that's, what's your reaction around the NHL and what was going on last night? Dallas winning, Boston losing, and Colorado winning, and both those teams having to play game 7. That Anthony is not in at the moment. Y'all get him on that in a second. Let me get to some of your comments, guys. Here's the thing. Let me just and Anthony and I, we argued about this, and so did my friend John Solomon, who runs All Things Islanders. The thing about it is with that, Parise does skate into the crease, then he gets pushed. If it was outside the crease and he got pushed, there probably wouldn't have been a call. But then there was contact, and then that was it. But Romanell, I don't think the penalty killing has been that bad. I do think, however, their fourth line is a little bit left to be desired. It's going to be interesting to see what the Rangers do with that. No, we lost Anthony now. And wait, let me field this one real quick. Why'd you guys pay Trouba so much money? Did Lou Lamoriello make that deal for the Rangers? No, Jeff Gorton did. And I have been ripping this contract up and down for the last 3 years. 8 years at $8 million. And by the time the first month of the contract was over, it proved he was not a number 1 defenseman. That's just it. I did not like that deal to start. I looked at that and went, ugh. Like, put this in perspective. He's making $8 million a year. Henrik Lundqvist made 8.5, and he was already a Vezina Trophy winner. So by the time he got that deal, I think, again, one thing is it's not just the rookie goalie. It's the fact that their scheme is doing the Devils are taking the Rangers out of it. They're taking out the middle of the ice, and they're taking out the middle. You can't get in the house. If you can't get in the house, how are you gonna score? Barbashev would have cost more, and meanwhile Kane was peanuts. And by the way, I gotta say this: Chris Drury got Patrick Kane and Vladimir Tarasenko giving up 1 first-round draft pick. That's pretty good. Like, again, this is not over. Yeah, core, exactly. The second pen and paper, that contract was atrocious because it proved he couldn't be a number 1 defenseman to go up against other teams' top units, especially as they were developing Tony DeAngelo. Because I think that was his defense partner for a little bit, and it proved he couldn't be a power play quarterback because he just doesn't distribute the puck that well and doesn't hit the net. I mean, it's crazy. And again, that's why Philk and I have been saying all along, at the end of 2024, he will be traded. And I think they need the building to be very active, B-Rye. And I think Ranger fans have seen a lot of elimination games over the last 10 years. I think the fans are going to understand this. I don't think it's going to be quiet. I don't think that building is going to be quiet. So, and they've done, and B-Ride, this is where you're right. They've done a good job controlling and stifling the Devils in their game. The Rangers, if they just could have potted one more goal in game 3, this is a whole different series. It probably would have been over by now. But the narrative now, it's unbelievable. This narrative in this series has gone from, this is the reason why this team can't get far, because they can't put teams away, to, holy shit, are they even going to win this series? And they got to they got to fight. And they've pulled their best hockey against elimination the last few years. So is what they're going to have to, that's what they're going to have to do. They're going to have to do it tonight. All right, let's get some more comments in, everybody. Make sure you, I had it right here a second ago. Make sure you leave a like. Right now, we got 24 of you here for it. Thanks for joining in. It's a bit of an impromptu, playoff discussion. There might be one tomorrow. Tomorrow might be tight. I don't know about tomorrow. Hopefully something. There's going to be a lot more, but we're going to start the sign off song for Bye Bye, which is again by my cousin Phil, who used to be a sound guy for the New York Rangers. Picture of him with the World Cup. Devils as well. One of the cooler guys you're ever going to meet. Shannon, thank you very much. And yeah, hopefully they'll be back next year. Hey, Chris. And going from Twitch on this one. Trouba is slow. Love when he hits hard, though. Yeah, and he blocks a lot of shots, but yeah, the NHL guarantees their contracts. You can't renegotiate. You can get other teams to eat some, but that's about it. And yeah, and also Enzo, he also will run into a hit and get himself out of position. And Romanelli, you're right about this one. Ryan Lindgren is always worth a lot more than Jacob Trouba. And I just don't know if Trouba's got what it takes to play in this market. But yeah, I would actually, I got to find the Rangers victory song. I haven't put it on here. I might get a copyright strike for it though. All right. Yeah, once as a Zibanejad white flag throughout. I mean, they were outshot 20-2 in the third period. And look, I've been demoralized. I've been like, again, I just played a playoff game where we lost. I think it was 7-2 or 7-1. I mean, it was a championship game, and it was 1-0 my team, and then fell behind 3-1 early in the second period. Then they pot 2 twice. Guys are going, hey, should we call timeout? And I look up and it's 3 minutes remaining. Like, why bother? The end of the period's coming. And they had a moment like that where it's like against the Devils, where it was, can you at least just get to the end of the period? Because again, Gerard Gallant is terrible at taking timeouts. I've said this. I've been beating this horse since the Edmonton game. All right. Modine is saying Rangers win tonight. Pitter patter. Let's get at her. So hopefully there's so much running on tonight. If they bow out, it's going to be a franchise-altering loss. Romanel, I agree with you 100% on that one. I think it's that they have to win the next 2 games. I don't even think it's the next one. And one of those shots was from Igor. That is true as well. Like, look, there's proud players on the Rangers bench that were very much embarrassed in that game. You got to hope that shows up. Let's go Rangers. Just need to force game 7, then anything can happen. We could all be singing a different tune by next week. If the Rangers win this series, I will pick them in 5 over the Carolina Hurricanes. If the Devils win this series, if the Devils keep playing the way they are, I'll pick them in 5 over the Carolina Hurricanes too. Phil, thank you very much. Hopefully not. Hopefully not. Marc with a C, unite. At least it's the weekend, plenty of time to get drunk while watching. Well, you know, I will be working, so I will be focusing on that. Thanks to a lot of the guys that everybody that has checked in today. Thank you, everybody. Make sure that you hit that like button in case if you haven't for me one more time. We're going to be setting up at least another show. Maybe I might have time to do one tomorrow. I gotta pay a friend to visit tomorrow night. So hopefully we're gonna be talking about more hockey in a game 7 on Monday night. And don't forget, check out SeatGeek and use the promo code Big Apple Hockey for more. Guys, thank you very much. Let's go Rangers tonight. Hopefully more than one more Marc 60-second Rangers review for the season. Preferably, I'd prefer another 10, but that's a different story. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great night.